MagMongoSlade. MagMongoSlade. MagMongoSlade.
August 12th, Collision is in the books. Now we have to discuss it. It was a mostly boring show with a supremely long main event. But at least the crowd liked it. And I'm pretty sure there were some people on the internet who liked it. But for me, a cold match, entirely too long. But I'm pretty sure most of you knew I was going to say that. But first, we got to talk about news and notes. All right, so Tony Khan tweeted out the new Fighter Fest, Fight for the Fallen thing that he's got here. This came out on August 11th. He says, thanks to our great partners at Warner Bros. Discovery, TBS, TNT. I'm sorry. The other tweet was first. He says, based on the horrific fires in Maui, I've changed AEW's upcoming schedule to provide assistance. Next week on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, it's AEW Fight for the Fallen 2023. Across Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision. Proceeds from AEW on 8/16 Nashville plus 8/19 Lexington will go to the Maui Food Bank. Then later, he said, thanks to our great partners at Warner Bros. Discovery, TBS, TNT for working with us on our last moment changes to our marketing assets to move up Fight for the Fallen to next week. AEW Dynamite, Rampage, and Collision, Nashville, and Lexington to rally support for the Maui Food Bank for those in need. So for those of you who don't know, parts of Maui are on fire. It has been an incredibly terrible tragedy going on over there, and plenty of people are being displaced. Homes are being destroyed. People are dying. There's videos of people having to ride by others, because they can't afford to open the doors or the windows to their cars and letting smoke in. It is frightening. And as awful as that was, I have to admit, my brain went straight to cynical mode, because I said, okay, Tony Khan's a billionaire. He could have just given money, He could have just cut a check. You don't really need to turn your program into a marketing thing. You really don't need to do that. And then tweet about it and all this kind of stuff. And look at me. We're doing, it's so cynical. And I realized that, and I caught myself, but I feel like I need to bring it out there anyway, because I know there's other people who are thinking the same thing. I'm saying to myself, like, bro, you could have just cut a check. It wouldn't have bothered. You could have cut a check, sent food, whatever. You could have did that personally. You could have did it on behalf of AEW by turning these into branded shows. You're essentially trying to entice viewers while using this tag and all this kind of stuff. And I'm really just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, is it for a positive thing? Yes. But it seems to me like it's like one of those, hey, look at me kind of things. Like, hey, look at me. Look at what we're doing over here. Buy a ticket for our show so we can give the proceeds to blah, 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 when you could just cut a check. I mean, you don't need to do what you're doing. You could, to turn it into a charity show so that people can watch it. I don't know. That's just me being, I don't know. I guess it's that tribalism that people talk about. I'm really, really trying not to get that way. But the more virtue signaling I see in AEW, the more I get, skittish about some of the things that they do, especially some of the things that they say. We'll talk about one of the things that they said later. Another note, Thunder Rosa apparently was going to have a 5-minute tryout match before Collision, from what it seems like. She posted a video of herself and her doctor, where the doctor says he's going to okay her to do a 5-minute match to see how her body holds up. And if she holds up well, she'll be back in 3 weeks. We haven't heard anything about this warm-up match, which supposedly happened before Collision, or will it happen afterwards? We don't know. I'm guessing it was before. Hopefully everything goes well, because Thunder Rosa is definitely missed on this women's roster. I mean, it's crazy how much she adds to the roster, and nobody noticed it until she was gone all this time. She's no spring chicken. I think she's in her mid to late 30s, so she doesn't have that many years left on top. She's got to get it in. I know she's been doing this for a while, and wrestling wasn't her first love. I think she was a teacher or a social worker or something like that before she got into wrestling. And she also did mixed martial arts and stuff like that. So, you know, she needs to really juice this lemon while she can and make as much lemonade as possible, because I doubt she get a chances like this again. So hopefully everything works out for her. Okay, the last thing I want to do is look at the massive amount of dick riding. That's just the best way to put it. Dax dick riding CM Punk. So he says that CM Punk is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's talking to DAZN Wrestling, and he says this. The business at one point was completely against him and what he represented and who he was, and he made a name for himself and became one of the biggest stars our industry ever seen, and he left the other promotion. He left WWE on his own accord, and they wanted him back. They begged to have him back for years and years and years, and he never went back. And AEW landed that, and having, in my opinion, the second biggest, maybe up there with Roman Reigns, the biggest name in professional wrestling today, only helps everybody else in the company because it's more eyeballs to the product. Whoa, Kimosabe. Some of this seemingly untrue. Look, no doubt CM Punk is probably top tier draw for AEW. I mean, there's just no conversation to be had there. But putting him in the same orbit as Roman Reigns, I don't know, man, because Cody is up there too. I mean, Cody, independent of independent of being a champion, independent of having his own show, he's a big part of Raw, but he's just, a guy on Raw. They built an entire show around CM Punk, and then they have to make an excuse every week why the ratings don't go up or why the ratings are what they are. And he might be a draw for AEW, but that draw is not big. The jumps from pay-per-view and stuff like that didn't seem to be that big. It seemed to be, at least initially, he sold out a lot of arenas when he first got back. But as I expected, and as most people would have expected, it dimmed down over time. And you compare that to somebody like Cody, who, probably has not appeared in front of a half-empty building since he came to WWE. And a lot of it is him, because he's on Raw essentially as the biggest star on Raw by himself, with some help occasionally from Seth Rollins. And I guess Rhea and Dominic are starting to creep up in terms of being a draw if you look at NXT's ratings and stuff. But I don't know. But the whole thing about Punk being a draw, we can go back and forth on that. It is what it is. We've had that conversation 100 times. I don't feel like revisiting it. The part of this conversation that really kind of raised my eyebrow is the fact that WWE apparently begged him to come back, because that is almost the exact opposite of everything that we've heard. The dirt sheets have claimed, and again, the dirt sheets have claimed it, that they did not want anything to do with CM Punk, and they have not wanted anything to do with CM Punk in a really, really, really long time. And that any kind of conversation about bringing CM Punk in has usually been, nope, not interested. Remember that whole thing where they claimed, the dirt sheets, meaning Meltzer and all of these guys, they claimed that Fox was willing to pay half the money for CM Punk to come back, and WWE still said no, we're not interested, we don't want this guy. That, guys in the locker room like CM Punk and Roman Reigns openly came out and said, nah, we're good. We don't need that guy, and we don't want him. So where did he get the concept that these guys begged? Who begged? Exactly. Who begged? I mean, Vince went and publicly apologized for firing him on his wedding day, but that was about it. Nobody who begged for him to come back. I'm really interested in. I know Triple H ain't begged for him to come back. Who begged? Who was begging for this guy to come back? That's what I want to know. Is this just his way of pumping CM Punk's nuts up? Because if that's the case, look, I'm a little too old for that. You know, I've been following these dirt sheets for a long time, and look, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. That's why I'm wondering if Dax could share with us the names of these people who were begging CM Punk to come back, who were sending him love letters saying, please come back. They sliding in his DMs. Vince McMahon showed up at Cody's house. Did he show up at Punk's house? Did AJ Lee make lemonade and cookies and they sat down and talked about this, and Vince that got down on his hands and knees and joined the CM Punk kiss my ass? I don't think so. I don't think so. So this idea, I don't know. It seems like one of those things where, you know, just we'll see. I don't know if that's true or not, Dax. That's all I'm saying. I know that CM Punk is your best good buddy, but I'm not sure you're telling the truth out here in these streets. But nobody's going to call him out on it, of course. You know, nobody cares what these people have to say. They all about hyping each other up. It is what it is. But let's start with AEW Collision with one of the big, bright spots of the show, which was Ricky Starks cutting one hell of a promo. So Tony Schiavone announces to me and the rest of the world that Ricky Starks has been suspended for 30 days from wrestling after whipping Ricky Steamboat with a belt. So pause. This means that Ricky Starks will not wrestle in Wembley, nor will he wrestle in Chicago at All Out. He's going to miss both of those pay-per-view events where he should be in featured matches on the card given his push, and instead he will not be. Does that make sense to anybody listening to the sound of my voice? Does it make sense for you to not have Ricky Starks featured on either All Out or All In? Doesn't make sense to me that you would push this guy to get him this far and then decide, you know what, not going to use him on pay-per-view, not going to use him at all. But this is the side effect of, you know, the CM Punk extended universe. You know, he's feuding with 4 different people, you know, all at one time. And what that means is somebody's got to get put on ice so that he can do something with somebody else. And Ricky Starks apparently caught the bullet, and now is he even going to fly to London? I guess he's going to be there in some kind of other capacity, but he should be the star of the show. One of the stars of the show, rather. For Christ's sake, this show is going to be like 12, 22 hours. This is going to be like a wrestling festival. It's going to go all night. And this guy's not going to have a match? That's crazy. I mean, people are already complaining about the Wembley card and how it looks like a Dynamite and that kind of stuff. I don't know. All these shows look like Dynamites to me. Even the big pay-per-view shows, they look like Dynamite. That's why they are interchangeable. But some people are just kind of really getting salty about Wembley. And now you're getting me salty about Wembley because now you're saying to me, Ricky Starks, who we've been building up for the last 2 months, is not going to be on either of those pay-per-view shows. And that's just unacceptable. I'm sorry. It's unacceptable. So from there, Ricky Starks starts talking about why he did what he did to Ricky Steamboat. He did it because, you know, he needs time to have consequences for your actions. Then he says that he figured that AEW would do something stupid like suspend him, which is why he went and got a manager's license. Then he claimed he's going to set the company on fire, and if they want a war next week, he's going to start one. Then he says that there's nobody like him on Dynamite or Collision. So, they're telling you that Ricky Starks, they're going to turn him into a manager for the next 30 days. But who is he going to manage? My first guess, Keith Lee. That was my first guess. I'm saying, like, okay, they're looking to pair, you know, Ricky Starks up with somebody. And I'm guessing it's going to be somebody they're looking to elevate. Who better than Keith Lee? You know, he's a guy who, much like Andrade, much like Miro, he was brought in, you know, Malachi Black, he was brought in with much ballyhoo from WWE, promptly sank like a stone in AEW. And they're going to be looking for ways to big him up, to raise up his stock. what better way than to pair him with Ricky Starks, who is hot as fish grease right now and can cut a hell of a promo? Not to say that, Keith Lee can't talk, but Ricky Starks can really get Keith Lee over. So I think if you put the right people with Ricky Starks, it could be a big, big deal. So hopefully his thing with CM Punk isn't over. I get they want to give Punk 30 days to get done with this Samoa Joe thing and then maybe handle the MJF question and then get back to Ricky Starks. But putting Ricky Starks on ice like this, I'm not really a big fan of it. Because even if you do make him a manager for somebody, he can't wrestle. He can only pass the heat along to somebody else while trying to maintain his own heat. I don't know. It just seems weird. Like usually when guys are suspended, they're just off TV. Turning them into managers seems like a way of trying to transfer their heat to somebody else. At least for a little while. I don't know if that's going to work. I did like this promo though. It had a whole lot of fire, a whole lot of passion. Ricky Starks is really good at the promo thing. Crazy how this guy has been hiding on their roster for years, unutilized. And now he's finally getting an opportunity and he's ripping it up. He's doing a very good job. All right. They showed a vignette for the Young Bucks and FTR. Whatever. Whatever. I don't care. The Acclaimed wrestled a pair of Jabbarellos by the name of the Iron Savages. This match was entirely too long. Oh my God. This match seemed to last forever. But here's the thing that really threw me for a loop. The Jobberino. I don't know what was going on, but Max Caster made a Lizzo joke. And this guy stumbled all the way back to the corner. It was like watching something out of an anime. Like you see one of those animes and then they just stare and then they fall down. It was like that. Like this guy sold that punchline to the point when he staggered into the... I'm like, what on earth? Why would you do that? I guess you have to sell it. I guess, But my goodness. He probably sold that punchline more than he sold any singular attack in this match. This match went on for entirely too long, though. There was the sad part of Bowens about to yell, "Scissor me, daddy ass," only to realize that daddy ass is not there. That was very sad. This match went entirely too long. I don't know, man. This was... Oh, boy. Look, the Acclaimed are fine. They're fine, but this match seemed to go on and on and on. And I looked away and kept looking back, and they were still going. And then they did the scissor me leg drop, which I can't believe it took them so long to come up with it. With Bowens basically doing a leg drop on a guy's nuts. They basically doing it in the Dudley Boys style. So that was kind of fun. All right, so of course the Acclaimed win. They're using the Fame-Master as a finisher now. After the match, Max Caster said that the Acclaimed are back. They're going to be wrestling again on Dynamite. And they're saying with the spirit of Billy Gunn, they cannot be stopped. Bowens then said that last week they got to say their goodbyes to Daddy Ass. This week, the people get to say goodbye. So he wanted them to put their scissors up and say goodbye to Daddy Ass. So everybody put their two fingers up. It was a very good moment. Okay, so they're doing their thing. Bullet Club Gold. They did a promo segment where they claim nobody is better than they are. Then Jay White said this is the most elite form of the Bullet Club ever assembled. And he knows that there are other guys who are calling themselves the elite, but they have no right to. And it's like there's some guys who are calling themselves the best brother tag team. And they also don't have a right to that because the Gun Boys are still here. So then the Gun Club called out the Young Bucks for a match on Dynamite. Okay, I'm tired of the Bullet Club. I hate the Bullet Club. Juice Robinson talked. It sent a shriek up the back of my neck. It made me want to just pitch my TV into a wall. But I maintained my composure, y'all. I survived another Juice Robinson promo, despite the fact that I wanted to, drop kick him through the screen. I heard that these guys are actually going to be a part of the Wembley show in some version of a 6-man tag. that's going to feature at least Juice Robinson, Jay White, and a third person versus Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, and Hangman Page. And people were very disappointed upon hearing about that. And I don't know if the match is actually going to happen or not, or if the match was canceled. Who knows? Nobody knows what's going to happen yet. But people are very disappointed in this. And to me, these people are aimless. Ever since they feuded with FTR, they're aimless. But they also claimed that Jay White was going to wrestle CM Punk at Wembley, or he was going to wrestle him at All Out or something. Neither one of those things are looking to be on the docket. So we're just kind of like, hey, go out there and talk about being Bullet Club, which is, you've been doing for years already. Don't add anything new. Don't, Bullet Club. Do that. We're still talking about the NWO, so I guess we can still talk about the Bullet Club, right? Who cares? Next. Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander are defeated by Mercedes Martinez and Diamante. I'm not going to pretend that I cared about this match. I didn't care. Didn't care one bit. Mercedes Martinez wins via a roll-up on Willow Nightingale. The interesting spot from this match was Diamante being razor's edged outside the ring by her partner. And if it wasn't for Willow and Chris Statlander coming in a little bit, they probably would have missed that thing completely if she'd hit the flow. I don't know. Women in their upper body strength should not be trusted. Please take into account that you're females and that things are not as simple as they look. But at least she made it. She didn't die. So Mercedes Martinez wins. They're continuing the Mercedes Martinez Chris Statlander thing. Is this the direction that they're going for a big collision match? Maybe All Out or something? I don't know. But okay, they did this I think a week or so ago, so they're still doing this. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Toni Storm said she was a little depressed, but now that she knows she's getting her contractually obligated rematch, she's feeling a little bit better. Then also said that her friend Saraya will also be in this Fatal 4-Way match, so there will be no shenanigans. Then she called Britt a little toxic girl, and her behavior is unacceptable, and she will not stand for it. So then she got into an argument with the microphone holder and told her to shut up. Okay, look, I like what they're doing with Toni Storm. She's doing a really good job. She is having a mental breakdown. She's walking around in robes. I like it. She was barefoot on like Rampage or something like that, wearing virtually nothing. I'm like, oh, this is changing the game here. She's wearing little to nothing under that robe. This is why she keeps it so tightly closed. I like it. She's found good diction with her language and the way she's saying things. She's coming across like a real character now. It took forever. Again, it's one of those things where it took forever, but we finally found something, and it's working. And now she thinks that Saraya is her friend, and there's a small cadre of, probably not so small cadre, of people online who they think Saraya is going to win this Fatal 4-Way. I don't want to throw my name in that hat, but it would seem like it would make sense to do it if they were ever going to make Saraya the champion. Wembley seems like the place to do it. But if they're hiding Saraya singles matches on Rampage, they're probably not ready to put the belt on her. I think she's just there because they want to have somebody from England in a prominent spot on the card. And that seems to be the perfect person in the perfect place. If they were going to put the belt on her, I think they probably would have left it on Hayter and then had Hayter drop it or, whatever. But Sheeta not having a long run with the belt and then losing it, I can see that happening too. But it's a weird thing. I don't really get the vibes, though, that Saraya is going to win the match. I'm not getting those vibes yet. But we won't get Sky Blue's butt cheeks in Wembley, 67, what will be 90,000 people, looking at her butt cheeks. She could probably sell a lot of calendars. a lot of OnlyFans pics or something like that. She's probably kicking herself at the goddamn marketing potential. Like, my God, I could have had my ass in front of, 70,000 people. You know how many calendars I could sell with that? I know how many calendars you could sell. She should be kicking. She should be pissed. But then again, she's always been sort of a preliminary wrestler anyway. And they're already squeezing too many people on this show. And they like to have these matches be 30 minutes a piece or some nonsense like that. This show will literally be all night. All right, next, Samoa Joe versus Andre the Giant. I'm sorry, what's his name? Andrew Everett. But he's wearing like Andre the Giant gear. He looks like an absolute fool. Look, it's not 1986. Why is this guy dressed this way? I don't know. What is going on with the jobber class of AEW? Where they're just doing weird things. They're dressing weirdly. From Gravity doing the Gravity Walk to, this kid wearing the one strap like he's, what is this shit? Like, what is this? I ain't seen the one strap in a long time. He look like a fool, man. He just looks like a guy who's playing wrestler. It's so weird. Anyway, Samoa Joe beats this clown. He didn't beat him fast enough for my liking, so I'm unhappy. Then after the match, Joe says that he's looking for answers, but he's met with the silence of a coward. He said the real world champ is looking like a real bitch. And he's very upset with himself because he showed courtesy. He's aggravated because he asked. He showed mercy, but he says not anymore. Says he had to wait. He's going to do something drastic. He's going to demand an answer. Of course, he choked out CM Punk in the main event. We'll get there in a minute. Christian Cage came out there, cut a promo, talked about North Carolina, how a lot of second places comes out of North Carolina. Got some cheap heat by saying Michael Jordan isn't the greatest basketball player of all time as LeBron James. Then made some more North Carolina jokes. I think he made one about Ric Flair, saying that Ric Flair is not a better wrestler than he is. Even though Ric Flair is not from North Carolina, that's sort of Flair country. He's from Minnesota. Anyway, he then said that the TNT Championship demands respect and that fans and wrestlers don't respect him, and they wish they were him, the fans and the wrestlers. He said he feels disrespected by one wrestler in particular, Young Darby. He said he will never touch the title again while he has it. Then he says that Darby has, face paint 50% because he feels half dead. He said he's going to give him the other 50%. And then Arn Anderson came out there and things kind of went off the rails because he's got his son with him. And I'm like, there's nothing good that can come out of Brock Anderson being on television. I have yet to see anything positive about Brock Anderson being on television. Not even the fact that it means Arn Anderson is on television. Not to say that I hate Brock Anderson, it's just that I don't get anything positive out of the kid being on television. It's very unfortunate that he's here. So Arn and Christian argue for a little bit. Christian reminds everybody he beat Arn into a bloody pulp. And somehow this ends up with Brock Anderson in the ring fighting Luchasaurus. Tony Khan makes the match a TNT Championship match, even though Brock Anderson ain't beat anybody on television ever in AEW from the looks of things. Luchasaurus wins the match, not fast enough at all. Jesus Christ, Arn Anderson threw his son to the lions. How many times did the Christians bring their own sacrifices to the lions? Oh boy, Luchasaurus. Oh, Snitchosaurus. Jesus. After the match, Darby Allin, who is, again, feuding with 4 different people at the same time, him and CM Punk are just engrossed in many, many feuds. He attacked Luchasaurus with the skateboard, bounced him all outside the ring. He then got on the microphone and said that Luchasaurus is a dinosaur. He's been around 65 million years. Have you ever had a skateboard shoved up your ass? To which the crowd actually popped, and I just looked at this thing and I was like, Nope. That one whiffed. Strike one. He then challenged Christian to a match next week and then said that he will eventually become the new face of TNT. Now, Darby Allin versus Christian, I don't hate it. I genuinely don't hate it. I think it's pretty good, actually. You know, it's something for TV for sure. You know, I think Christian wrestling on TV, if he's going to wrestle on TV, he should wrestle people that are being pushed. You know, I think he's above the occasional jobber match. This is a match that he could lose this match and it won't be that big of a deal. You know, Darby can win it, but since Darby is embroiled in a feud with AR Fox and all of those guys, is it wise for Darby to lose? Are those guys going to interfere? How do we do this? You know, how is that going to work? I guess we'll have to see. But I'm down for Christian versus Darby being the main event next week. I'm cool with that. My favorite part of the show came next. Powerhouse Hobbs came out. He said that an opportunity presented itself last week, Chicago, All Out, and he was going to get a big win, courtesy of QT Marshall. He said he doesn't need, QT Marshall doesn't want it. Then he says he hasn't had any peace for the last few months, and that he went to find the one thing that would allow him to inflict violence, the one place where he can get some answers. And it led him to the Book of Hobbs. I don't get the Book of Hobbs. He's been talking about the Book of Hobbs for like 3 years, and I don't get it. Then he says that he read the Book of Hobbs and he said the next chapter is redemption. How does he redeem himself for losing the TNT title? How does he redeem himself for losing in the Owen Hart tournament? And then he says, by calling out the Redeemer. And so Miro comes out. Then he gets jumped by Nick Camarado, who somehow looks small because I didn't really recognize him. And that other guy who used to be the boyfriend of Auntie Pam, but apparently he's just now some guy. You know, he talk about fumbling the bag. This guy's got butterfingers. The bag had a hole in it. How did she... That dude... He trying to catch a goldfish barehanded. What an idiot. Anyway, they jumped Miro from behind. Miro fought them off, and then Hobbs spine busted Miro and put the Book of Hobbs on his chest. So I'm saying I say unto you, this is like when you get to play with your friend's toys and he got better toys than you. You know, it's like you go over there and all of a sudden he got the Batman with the black armor and everything, and the elbows actually bend and the knees actually bend, and you're like, oh shit, you know, this is fun. You know, Hobbs and Miro is right up my goddamn alley, right? Both of these guys need to win. That's the only problem I got is Hobbs is looking for redemption. You know, simple story. He lost 2 big matches. He's looking for redemption. Miro is a guy who, you know, is on the warpath. He's not always featured, but he's always lurking. And he's not really a character in this position as much as he is a force of nature. He is something that Will Hobbs has chosen as somewhere where he can take the next step, where he can show and prove who he really is and what he learned during his sabbatical. And I'm down for this. I am 100% in. And it seems like they're putting this on the All Out show, not on the Wembley show. Apparently neither one of these guys are going to wrestle on the Wembley show. And it seems to me that that's what Tony Khan's trying to do, is he's trying to separate certain people for All Out that won't be on All In, because they're back-to-back weeks, so they're going to be 2 different products, kind of. So, I don't know, because Darby Allin's going to be on both shows. We know CM Punk is likely to be on both shows. We know that the Elite's likely to be on both shows. So, you know, there's certain people, of course, who are going to be on both shows, but apparently there's going to be some people who are only going to be on All Out that won't be at Wembley. As long as they get prominent spots, that's fine. But again, Ricky Starks won't be on either one, and that sucks. So I'm in for that. Main event of the evening, House of Black versus CMFTR for the Trios Championship. JR was on the call. He only shows up for CM Punk matches. Oh, I forgot to talk about this. Let's talk about it here. Jim Ross says that his contract with AEW is coming up. And there's, I would imagine he's probably, I don't think he wants to be in his house by himself, you know? I don't think he should probably continue doing commentary, you know, with the traveling and everything. But what else is there for him to do at AEW? I don't know. The fan base hates him, you know? There was somebody who recently scanned his likes on Twitter to see whether he supports the women's division when Lufisto was talking trash about the women's division. And instead, they found him liking pictures of Paige Van Zant in bikinis. And this was so important, they had to tweet about it and talk about it and expose it to people. And folks are just basically disgusted at Jim Ross being 70 years old and yet, you know, still wanting to find women attractive. He's not supposed to find women attractive unless he looks up granny porn, you know? Apparently. That's when you're 70 some odd years old, you can only look at granny porn. You're not allowed to look at, you know, the young women in bikinis with nicely oiled bodies and huge tits. You're not supposed to look at them, you know? You're not supposed to go yeehaw at them, you know? People are weird. Anyway, that fan base is very weirded out by Jim Ross. And they have been unkind to Jim Ross quite a bit on occasion for various things, whether it's, you know, verbal slip-ups that he's had, some of the comments he's made about women or the women's division or about certain wrestlers or whatever. And if I were Jim Ross, I probably would have sat the rest of his contract out and just plain retired. But he doesn't want to, I think he wants to work until he's gone, you know? But I think he definitely needs to not travel so much and find something where he doesn't, like, I'm not saying that, you know, he has no value at all in commentary. But what I'm saying is maybe he needs a different role, you know? Maybe he needs to be like the producer of the commentary team or something like that. Something to that effect, you know? I just don't know if him, and plus I just think if him and AEW is just not working out. I know that they're probably going to want him to stick around because the name value, even though they don't really need the name value anymore, they've kind of used it up. You know, he still gets pops in the arenas, but I don't think it really attaches itself to marketing and media the way it used to. Like at first, he was one of the guys that they really promoted as being on the show. Now, because he isn't featured that often, they don't really promote Jim Ross anyway. So they won't. If he was to try to do recruiting and stuff like that, they wouldn't listen. You know, so because they only pushing their friends and people that they're politically attached to. So no, I just don't see what he can do. But I think that, and I'm, you know, just being biased a little bit here. If he was to be like, you know, evaluate talent in NXT or something like that, my goodness, he could be very effective at that role. If it was somebody with the amount of experience that he has at that, at talent relations. If you had a guy like him in NXT evaluating talent, just looking at the youth and giving them advice, man, he could be, and he wouldn't have to travel as much. Or at least if he does travel, he won't be on TV, you know, getting fucked with by the stupid audience. You know, it's that would probably be nice. You know, I think that would be a nice little retirement job for him where it's something he can do and something Triple H probably wouldn't bother him with. Let him make his own decisions and evaluate talent and recruit talent and stuff like that. That could be excellent. All right, so he called this match. But Ian Riccaboni was still the lead play-by-play guy. When it comes to the match, it was solid. The parts that I watched before I realized how long this match was going to be. You know, like I'm not legit. I lose interest in matches pretty quickly. You know, I was awake and with it, the same parts that people were awake and with it, the very early parts, you know. The crowd were extremely hot for the Punk versus Malachi stare down, and when they did stuff, the crowd was in the moment, and I was too. Then it kept going, and it kept going. And I was just kind of looking at the clock, and they kept going. And I started scratching my head, and they kept going. And I'm like, I sat back on the couch, and they were still going. And I had drank an entire bottle of water in one sitting, and they were still going. And I went to the bathroom to release that whole bottle of water, and they were still going. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? And then CM Punk finally got grabbed by Samoa Joe and put in the chokehold. And I was like, okay, finally something is happening. So it was an interesting spot because, Joe, his finisher is a sleeper hold, so he's behind the barricade. Even Joe's a big guy. The referee's not going to be able to see over the barricade. So when they're laying down like that, Punk is basically invisible to the ref. So that was good. And then FTR just took the pin. I was like, okay. They did. I remember the super shatter machine that they did. That was interesting, kind of sloppy. There was some sloppy parts in the match for sure. But I was just kind of like, oh my God. I felt like this match was 30 minutes, bro. Like, was it 30 minutes? Or am I exaggerating again? Because I was with it for a while, man. But then I realized there was nothing after this. And that's when I just kind of looking at the clock like, oh God. Oh my God. What are they doing, bro? At least if you're gonna do a 30-minute match, bro, please build it up. And I don't just book this thing and then say we're gonna dump 30 minutes in your lap. Just don't do that. That's all I ask. I remember the one time they did that on Raw. It was like Malachi Black and Apollo Crews, and like out of nowhere, this match was like 45 minutes. And I'm just like, I feel like a hostage at that point. Like, I don't want a wrestling match to hold me hostage. This one didn't get to that point. And there was some parts where I was kind of like, okay, they're doing something. Buddy Matthews looked pretty good here. So it wasn't a bad match. It's just, it hit my bar for this match is too long. And once a match gets to that bar where it's too long, I'm just kind of like, I really don't care anymore, bro. You gotta work hard to get me to give a shit. And Joe popping up, I just wish he popped up sooner. I'm like, Joe, what was you doing? You went and took a shower? You had to go eat a nice, steak or something? You could have choked this son of a bitch out 15 minutes into this thing. But, that didn't happen. Editing Mongo here. The previous finish of this thing is probably going to get overwritten because CM Punk just cut a, quite frankly, ridiculous post-show promo on Collision that I just saw online. And because I don't want to make a separate video for it, we're just going to talk about it right here at the end of my Collision review. So, CM Punk says, and I quote, "Carolina is Hangman country." He said, "Earlier today I went to a local supermarket and I figured out why they call him Hangman. It's because the pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures because nobody wants them. He's a peg warmer, unlike me, who moves merchandise, pops ratings, sells toys. You got everybody in AEW saying, I'm the heart, I'm the soul, I'm the spirit. Well, that's subjective. What's a fact is that who say they certainly aren't the chin of AEW because the lights go out faster than what? GTS. Go to sleep. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I got rocked too. I told House of Black no chops and they chopped me. So I'm very mad." And there's actually audio of this. And it's absolutely unhinged. He told the crowd, oh yeah, I told House of Black don't chop me and they chopped me anyway. Why would you mention that in a post-show promo? Why would you mention that? Was that supposed to be a joke? I hope it was supposed to be a joke. But the rest of this, he called Hangman Page a peg warmer. I have no idea what that means. Maybe because I'm not in the toy collection angle. But when I saw the headline, I was thinking that he gets pegged, meaning that either women with strap-ons or other guys were going to work on Hangman Page. That's what I thought. I was looking like, whoa, is he just calling him a bottom bitch? Is that what he's saying about this man? And then I read it and I was like, oh, so it's like being a bench warmer, where you just kind of sitting there dying on the pine. Is that what we're saying about Hangman Page action figures, that they're dying on the pine? Is it true that Hangman Page, who is from Virginia, not North Carolina, but is it true that nobody buying his action figures? And CM Punk just randomly decided to mention that in a promo. Then he jokingly, in the audio version, because they didn't put the rest of it here, he says, "Is this called a heel turn? What's going on here?" And some of the crowd starts to boo him and stuff like that. This is pretty ridiculous. It's pretty funny. I don't know if he's, on good terms with these guys now that he feels like he can joke with them, or maybe he just doesn't care anymore. It's a post-show promo. It's not on television. He's not burying them on television. But him saying that nobody wants to buy Hangman Page action figures, it kind of goes back to with the whole thing with Dax Harwood, where he's saying like, oh yeah, I move merchandise, I move toys, yada, yada, yada. It's like, that's true. There was a time where, CM Punk action figures were the number one action figures in the entire business. There was a time when his t-shirts and stuff like that were the number one t-shirts in the business. I'm not so sure how true that stuff still is. So I can't argue with that. But he might be number one in AEW. That might be a fact. The idea that he says that these guys might be the heart, they might be the soul, which is a knock on the Young Bucks, because they said that they were the spirit of AEW. They're the main characters and all this kind of stuff. He said they're certainly not the chin of AEW. I say they're more like the armpits of AEW. They're more like the back of the ears of AEW. They're more like the blown ACLs of AEW. They're the appendix of AEW. The tonsils. The wisdom teeth. Oh, God. So what is Wheeler Yuta? He like the eyelashes of AEW? What's going on? He said, you're certainly not the chin. I'm like, oh, well, who's the chin? This is like, what did Bryan Danielson call Drew Gulak? The gallbladder of pro wrestling or something like that? The pancreas? Clearly, that's hilarious, okay? You're certainly not the chin of AEW. Like, who the fuck is the chin? Is Moxley the chin? What is Moxley? I want to know, is he the small back of AEW? Is he the bicep, the wrist? Well, I'm sorry, the broken wrist. That would be Anthony Bowens. Oh, no, I can't say that. Can't say that. I can't say he the limp wrist of AEW. I shouldn't say that. Don't say such things. Don't say such things. Is there a penis of AEW? That's what I want to know. Is there a ball sack of AEW? Or is there a pair of tits on AEW? Like, what kind of body parts does AEW have? Is Britt Baker the uterus? How does this work? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. CM Punk seems to have, he might have gotten knocked out. But he seems kind of delirious. But throwing shots at the Elite only really begs the question that they're going to reply in some way. It shows why these guys don't work together. And it's probably for the best. He still got some heat for Hangman Page and decided to, take a couple of digs at him. Maybe it won't be that big of a deal. We won't know. But I'm pretty sure that if by the time this video goes up, there's probably going to be a lot of CM Punk buried Hangman Page. Hangman Page is upset about this. The Elite is upset about this. They're not happy. And then Meltzer is going to start tweeting about it and talking about it. And, oh boy. Right before Wembley. Right before the biggest show that they're ever going to put on. CM Punk decides to call Hangman Page a peg warmer, that and allude to the fact that he keeps pegs warm, and that's probably what something Hangman Page is absolutely for, in one way or another. Because CM Punk supports these kinds of things. He supports pegging. So CM Punk always supports current thing. Did you not see his T-shirt tonight? He supports the SAG-AFTRA strike. He supports everything current. Of course, CM Punk supports current thing. It's current thing. Why wouldn't you support current thing? Are you a bigot or a fascist? Of course you support current thing. Whatever current thing is, whatever is mainstream on MSNBC, I support it, says Philip. But peg warmer Hangman Page, that's sad business, man, because that's probably going to stick like glue to him, because I didn't understand what it meant. There's going to be a lot of people that don't understand what it means, but it means he doesn't sell merchandise. But I could have guessed that. All right, for real this time. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MongoSlade.
Best house I ever drew, Daddy.